Hey, everybody, it's Dave here from Vikings First and SKOL, and it's Wednesday, which means it's time for Who Will Be King? Your NFC North roundup show. And today, we are talking about a primary story that hit yesterday. Why it took so long, we'll discuss it. But is there collusion afoot? We'll find out. One of the stories implicates the Bears. I have no idea why. We'll also look at some training camp battles if we get there, and if we get there, some headlines, including a Mr. Caleb Williams saying Packers fans suck, unquote. All next on Who Will Be King?
Bears.
Let the battles begin. And here we are. It's Wednesday afternoon. Big news broke. Pay wanted to talk about it, especially since his team was implicated in it, which I think is BS. But we have Foster representing Bleachers to Speakers for the Detroit Lions. How you doing, Foster?
I'm good. It's hot and muggy in the Motor City. I'm just trying to make it out here.
Well, it's hot and muggy where I'm at, too, and I'm sure it's hot and muggy where Pay's at also. How you doing, Pay?
I'm good, Dave. You know the telltale sign that it's too hot? You don't see none of these young kids running around in hoodies or shiesties right now. That's how you know it's way too hot outside. You know, we got to do something about this. It is smoldering. It feels like an air fryer.
Uh-huh. Or a sauna. Oh, the humidity is rough. But hey, it is what it is. It is summer. So it's supposed to be warm this time of year. Speaking of warm, June, where is your partner? June, Foster, where's your partner? June. Is he? He keeps telling me he'll be there. He'll be there. He'll be there.
Making that money, man. You know how June do, man. He stay with some money in his pocket.
Okay. And while that's the case, why don't you work on your microphone? It sounds like you're on your computer mic. We're hearing crackling when you're messing with that cable. Need a new cable. Hey, let's start out with the story that you turned me on to this morning about collusion in the NFL in a case that wrapped up arbitration last July.
Yeah, Dave. So I made mention because our Slack had been kind of quiet, and I know today is usually we're getting together our talking points of what we want to talk about. Let's do some research and everything like that for this show and the AFC North show that I do that's similar to this. Pretty much Wednesdays are the days that we get those together, and I'm wondering, like, why is no one talking about this collusion case? To me, it's probably the biggest story of the NFL offseason, if not the biggest story in the last maybe year or so in the league, right? And it just came to my attention that no one's talking about this. So I threw it out there to you, Dave. So, thanks for being receptive. But I did some digging and I look at it. I'm on the ESPN app right now and I'm looking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's not even on their top stories. It's not a top headline to ESPN. Maybe that's why it's skating past people's collective reconnaissance. Maybe ESPN's bearing the story. Who knows? If you listen to Mike Florio from PFT, he says league partners aren't covering this at all. They're doing the NFL's dirty work, Dave. He's usually saying stuff like that. That's why they're going to end up snatching his credentials one day. But but yeah, Dave, this is it. Go ahead.
I was going to explain to the audience what it is. The NFL faced allegations of colluding to restrict guaranteed contracts for veteran players. It's a controversy that's sparked by the Cleveland Browns, who in 2022 gave that massive monster, absolutely gross deal to Deshaun Watson. Evidence suggests that because other teams haven't given guaranteed contracts lately, that it was collusion. Well, what happened was the original people that were protesting this challenged the NFL. The NFL and the NFL Players Union went to bring it to be addressed. They agreed to arbitration. Well, it turns out there was like 258 or some large number of players that joined the suit against the NFL, saying, hey, if we negotiate a fully guaranteed contract, we should get a fully guaranteed contract. You guys are artificially suppressing our ability to get fully guaranteed contracts. And the arbitration said, all right, both sides, give us all your notes, give us everything that happened. There's a governing council of the NFL that comprises the owners, are some select owners, Roger Goodell, and maybe a couple other people. And they supposedly at one of the owners' meetings back in like 22 or 23 said, hey, no, we can't do this. We can't give out BS guaranteed contracts. And I would like to point out, which I'm surprised Mike did not, the whole guaranteed contract started with a certain GM for my team in 2018 when he selected Kirk Cousins. But the whole idea was that the league decided, no, we're not going to do this. It doesn't make financial sense. Make sure you guys don't do that. And all the owners were given, I guess, this memo. Don't do this. And that is a violation of the whole, union versus owners players agreement. And I think antitrust laws. That's the next step. But it took 2 years, went to arbitration. The judge was hand selected, a retired federal judge. And he came in and he decided the suit has no merit and threw it out. But in the process, he actually proved, I believe, and that's Pay's going to state, that there was collusion. Right, Pay? Is that how it goes?
Yeah, in his final statement, his conclusion in the case, he said that it is possible, and I'm paraphrasing, it is possible that the owners did collude. However, he cannot prove the collusion happened. Basically, the owners still can. You can't prove that what was stated at the as it's called, Dave, the managing council. That's what the NFL. It was a secret. It's a secret owners meeting. Basically, it's not on the books. It's the managing council in which this was Roger Goodell directed teams to not sign players to guaranteed contracts. Now, all of that came out in discovery, and as the judge found it, it said, yeah, they probably did collude, but there's no proof that these owners actually did what they did was of direct from what Goodell told them. Basically, to me, I think there's a bunch of hogwash. I think once you have the smoking gun, what's in collusion. I mean, once you have the direction from Goodell, and as you see, all these team owners are calling each other, emailing each other, texting each other. Hey, sidebar before I get into that, why are you still talking about the deed in text message and email? Whatever happened to a good old meeting up in a parking garage in your trench coat and getting the information that way? Whatever happened to the old days, Dave? We used to live in a proper country. Now we just
right,
tell
where
it
you
on
could hide your
ourselves.
stuff and it didn't go public. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Bring back Nixon. Bring back Deep Throat. What's going on with this place? But anyway, you've got all these smoking guns. You got Goodell and this secret committee where he's telling teams not to all coalesce, to all do something together, which you're not supposed to be doing. 2, you got the actions of these happenings. And 3, you have owners calling, emailing, texting each other, congratulating them on not signing their players to guaranteed deals. Case in point, Kyler Murray is up for a contract. When he wanted a fully guaranteed deal, just like what Deshaun Watson got. He settled for less. Then what happened after that? Dean Spanos, the owner for the Los Angeles Chargers, he contacts the owner for Arizona Cardinals and congratulates him and says, and I quote, "Thank you. Well, good job on signing Kyler to your deal. That helps us out in us signing our quarterback, your quarterback being Justin Herbert." All of these guys were up for the same thing, and everybody was asking for the same type of deal. We want fully guaranteed because that's obviously the market now, thanks to Deshaun Watson. That's fair, right? If Deshaun Watson can get it, pause. If he can get a fully guaranteed deal, then why can't Justin Herbert? Why can't MVP Lamar Jackson get a fully guaranteed deal? And Deshaun Jackson and Eric DeCosta, the Baltimore Ravens general manager, they had to testify as well in all this. All of these things are connected. Dave, I know you're not a fan of fully guaranteed contracts, but
No,
and you don't think you possibly don't think that that this is league owners discussing these things out in the open, well, maybe not out in the open, but in back rooms is much of a big deal. But let me ask you all this, if anybody feels that way. Let me ask you this. Do you think Burger King and McDonald's are getting together at conferences and discussing how to expand prices or how to lower prices across
Don't
the
forget,
burger
they
wars?
include Wendy's in there too.
Well, of course, I can't leave out Wendy's. I cannot leave out Wendy's. They're the OG, right? Can't leave them out. Do you think they're all getting together and discussing best business practices?
Now, see where it goes afoul is these are 32 individual companies, theoretically.
Theoretically, right.
That agree to be governed loosely by an entity they elect, Roger Goodell and the NFL, to represent them as a whole. But they're 32 individual companies that can make 32 different decisions.
Correct.
They do not have to agree on how to do contracts. That's not in anywhere written. Obviously, like I said, the Vikings led all this mess. They chose to give Kirk Cousins a fully guaranteed contract, and one of the reasons why I don't like it. There's reasons I don't like it other than just football. Goes baseball has it. I believe hockey may have it. I'm not sure about hockey. And basketball definitely has it. And the problem I have with it is if you get somebody, say Deshaun Watson, and you pay him oodles and oodles of money, what was it, $250 million guaranteed or whatever it was, just gobs of money, and he doesn't produce, you've hurt your franchise. You cannot get good players in, and thus, by hurting your franchise, you've weakened your product, which is the entertainment on the weekends, because you want to have a winning franchise. And I believe that the team, those franchises, should be able to make up their own rules on how they wish to succeed or fail themselves, and not have it governed by somebody up here pulling strings. That's the difference that I believe. There's plenty of money to go around, but we all want quality football. I don't want money just going to waste for non-quality football. I want the maximum quality as we can get. That's selfish on my part. I know that. But I also believe every player should get what they deserve. If they deserve a big multi-year contract, get a big multi-year contract. But try to structure it so you can work with the team, unlike Kirk Cousins. And if the team needs to make space, they can do that on a contract to bring in a lineman. Take the Kansas City Chiefs with Patrick Mahomes. He needed a new line. They moved some money further down the road. They brought in linemen. He makes the Super Bowl, wins the Super Bowl. The line starts to degenerate. He loses the Super Bowl. We're on that swing now. But it's up to the team to do that and not New York. That's what drives me bananas. Make sense?
Yeah, I mean, as you said, and Foster, I'm gonna let you get in there in a second on this, but in that at that meeting, the management council, which again, shout out to Mike Florio, who's one of the guys, I guess you can call him journalists, one of the journalists who was uncovering this. He did the deep dive. Shout out to him, PFT. Shout out to Pablo Torre, who did all the legwork for us. One of the presentations, you go to these things, they have a deck, right? One of the presentation slides said, and I quote, "If guarantees continue to grow, there's a risk that they become the norm. And that not only has the potential to hinder roster management, as you said, Dave, but set a market standard that will be difficult to walk back." And it was that term that the arbitrator concluded that the NFL's MC's message was not purely educational and informational rather. It was unmistakably encouraging the owners to reduce a trend of increasing player guarantees, i.e., we're all working together with this. If we're all working together, then then you can go ahead and throw away the antitrust clause that you got.
And that's just it. It sounds like a directive versus an educational deal. Hey, by the way, if we keep doing this, we're going to screw ourselves, sort of deal. It's no, we need to stop doing this. And they would. I mean, it would cause prices to go up. I mean, you still have the agreement, the 48-48 or 48-52 split, all that still exists. But if everything keeps going up, that means ticket prices keep going up. Everything else keeps going up. We complain about how much we have to pay for a beer in a stadium and a hot dog. All that stuff figures into that. We don't want it to be like San Francisco, where you're just the elite being able to go see the 49ers play. It should be kids growing up in the Valley that should be able to go to games, just like when we grew up.
If you live in San Francisco and you can still go see the 49ers play, you are definitely elite. Because I think the 49ers play like at 45 minutes away from Frisco now.
And the costs are astronomical. Yeah. And you've got to be an actor or a tech whiz or somebody like that to afford a seat. And that's crazy. This is a sport that we all love, that we grew up playing. And for me, it was down at the park or, playing tag in the street or whatever it was. And it was affordable. We could go to games. Dad took me to a game. That was cool. Didn't cost a whole lot. Way back, it was real cheap. Well, it should be roughly as cheap percentage-wise today. A family of 4 should be able to go to a ball game. I would think. Even if it's baseball,
You think it's expensive?
the cheap seats in the bleachers. They're called that for a reason. But people could afford it. If cost of labor goes up, then that means the cost of everything goes up. And now I want guys to get their money. Justin Jefferson got his money, got his payday. Good for him. He deserves it. Absolutely. Right? When our 2 quarterbacks pay, J.J. McCarthy and Caleb Williams comes up due, question will be how big are their contracts and how will it affect? You've got a finite piece of pie, 48%. And you've got to divide that up so that you stay competitive without having, hopefully, to put it on the back of the people that purchase your products. Whether it be going to the game, whether it be buying Sunday ticket, whether it be buying a jersey or a cup or whatever trinket to to memorialize the game, they've got to be able to afford that. Now, you can say, well, the owners can cut back too. Absolutely they can. They don't need, 8 different private jets just to fly to the league meetings. But to me, it's frustrating. One, that the NFL tried to pull strings in that secret management council. And 2, that the NFL Players Union, which is probably the weakest union in all of sports, has basically done nothing. And the fact that nobody's screaming about it. No agents, no players. Foster, Pay and I have talked too long. What's your opinion?
Well, I mean, you guys talked about how expensive a 49er ticket. I know you guys haven't, but the price, if you look at the price it is to go to a Lions game, it's pretty astronomical as well. And that sounds crazy considering, our history and, where we came from. They used to joke that somebody will break into your car and leave a set of Lions tickets for you as opposed to take something because it was really that bad. But I think ultimately it's going to come down to the players versus the fans because, the common football fan is not going to be able to afford, where it's going to head if guaranteed contracts are more expensive. I mean, I think the most obvious reasoning as to why that's the case is because there's such an imminent risk of injury. So you kind of set yourself up for, just pouring money down the drain because at any given moment, a career could be over with, which is why it kind of differs from, baseball and some of these other sports that are a little less, volatile and dangerous. So, like you said, you want these guys to get their money, you want them to be happy, yada, yada, yada. But like, if I got to side between, my cost and him not making as many millions as he can make, I got to side with myself in that regards. But, that's pretty much what I have to say about the topic.
Mm-hmm. Now, Det says, so how does the league handle his second round situation if they fold? Why wouldn't this become a third round situation next year? When does it? And all draft picks guaranteed. Now, we didn't talk about draft picks. Rookie contracts, there's a ton of guaranteed rookie contracts. Generally, first rounders are almost all now fully guaranteed thanks to pay.
Okay.
No, it's not thanks to Caleb. I think it was before that, right?
I'm not sure, but Caleb sure put a stick up on that one.
I think they started fully guaranteeing first round picks close to 5 years ago. Check
Well,
me
I think
on
it
that
may
one.
have been at the very top, but it's steadily going down.
Okay, yeah, that's probably that makes more sense.
Now, I shouldn't say Caleb. I remember Caleb's. Think about it. However, in the same draft, J.J. McCarthy and Dallas Turner both got theirs fully guaranteed. Now, when they get paid the guaranteed money, that's also negotiable. Do they pay it up front? Or do they spread it out? Because there's an advantage to the team if they spread it out. And I think that's part of Cincinnati's problem. Cash poor teams can't afford to pay it up front.
Yeah, that's I haven't really been following the Shamar Stewart situation that closely, but I know it was something to do with contract language, right?
Well, it's, if it's guaranteed, it's got to go into a trust, right? When it's guaranteed,
right?
Well,
that's how. So you what they do is, for those that don't know, you got to write the check out then and there. If I sign you, if you sign this contract and it has a guaranteed, let's say $5 million on it, I got to write that check for $5 million, send that right to New York. It goes in a trust, and it is paid out on the schedule that the contract states. That is how you end up getting big name players traded, because if they want all that money, for those that are Bears fans, think Khalil Mack. The Raiders were going through a move at the time, and they exhausted a lot of their business capital fund loans, and their liquidity was stretched, right? You don't really have the liquids to send New York to keep Khalil Mack on the roster. So what I got to do? Got to sell that asset. Welcome to Chicago.
Yeah. And it may force trades. But again, there's where it's interesting. And you're right. Why isn't it being talked about more?
I had another thought about the effect of guaranteed money in the NFL. In baseball, obviously, there's no salary cap. So when you have to, because like even a guy, I don't know how familiar you are with baseball, but Strasburg, he had to retire with like many years left on his contract. But it doesn't really affect the team building because they have an unlimited amount that they can spend if they want to. Whereas in the NFL, you have a salary cap. So if you invest into somebody that eventually is playing below the standards, you're still on the hook for that, and it works against the cap as far as I know. So that's where in the NFL it's a lot more detrimental than in baseball, where they all the owners are billionaires like everywhere else, but they can continue to spend and build their team without any, major penalty outside of just having to pay an inactive player, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Now, T-Bass talked about paying either direct or put it in on layaway, and sort of that, depending on how the contract's written, is layaway. Because the team could get an investment from a bank saying, yeah, I guarantee you $40 million. Get a loan from a bank, that goes into the trust, and then the team pays it out over time. But hey, who knows? Delton, no, these people aren't hurting. That's definitely not for sure, but it's almost the principle of the deal.
So there's a thing, again, I'll use the Raiders as an example. So when you're doing a move or expanding Whatever you had to do, trying to build a new stadium, Dave, anything like that, you get business loans, right? And they're different from your standard personal loan or a home loan or stuff like that. But a business loan, you have to have a certain amount of liquidity,
Collateral,
and your income to outcome debt ratio has to be a certain number, and it's a lot. Like I said, it's a lot different. So, getting a loan to pay your star player his signing bonus or whatever other bonuses that are guaranteed, it becomes very taxing to do if you're in a situation where you're trying to, like the Raiders were, or like the former Oakland Afs are in right now, where you had to start selling assets so you can actually get the loan, so you can build the things that you actually need. There's a lot of different things that happens behind the scenes that we as fans, we are primarily focused on what happens on the field. We're not necessarily akin to, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. No, it makes sense. But again, to bring it around, was it collusion? Did they prove collusion? And before the judge dismissed it as, well, it looks like there was, but there's nothing definitive. Shouldn't there be more talk about it? That's just what blows my mind.
There should. Foster, I feel like we're in the same with this right now, because I get kind of annoyed that it seems to me that the NFL is becoming more and more like the big brother every day. That's before your time, Foster. They own all of the primary media, the big media that covers sports. NFL is in bed with all of them, right? ESPN, NBC, ABC, wherever media still exists in this country, the NFL has their $20 billion hand in their pocket, and they're pulling, and it not just in their pocket, it's going up there. They're going up their back, and they're working their mouth like they the NFL is like Vito Corleone. They pull the strings. So you're probably not going to see this talked about a lot there, Dave. You know, I just said I'm on ESPN app right now, and it's not there at all. And you know,
nor will
ESPN,
it probably be on Fox or CBS or ABC / ESPN or NBC, because why? They have a vested interest in the product.
Exactly.
They're making money for both sides.
Exactly right. We another big story. We've actually heard that the NFL contacts these entities and tells them what to say and what not to say, and what highlights they want to see, stuff like that. The only reason why Mike Florio and PFT are doing it, because PFT is a separate thing. PFT is licensed to NBC, but it isn't owned by NBC. So shout out to Florio for sticking his neck out there, but he's made a career of doing that.
Mm-hmm. So T-Bass says there's collusion going on against Flores right now. It very well could be. T-Bass. He's got the lawsuit against the owners, and he has yet to become a head coach again. And he may never become a head coach again, depending on how it goes. We'll find out. Hopefully, eventually. But we'll see. Well, that's enough of this legal talk. Time for a break. Let's go to some lighter talk, like camp battles. But right after this. And we're back. Now, since we went through all that heavy stuff, let's talk about some camp battles. I went and looked up all the camp battles in the division, whether it be for starters or depth. And I'm curious what you all think of it. And Foster, let's start with the Lions. Your biggest battle is who's going to replace Frank Ragnow, right? You're muted, buddy.
Dang. Okay. Yeah, the reoccurring theme and concern amongst Lions fans is going to be within the trenches on both sides of the ball. I think more importantly, the offensive side of the ball with just the interior. Obviously, we're replacing a Pro Bowl center and at least one obviously Kevin Zeitler, who's also on the interior as well, and he was pretty much a Pro Bowl caliber player. So that's going to be a major question mark going into the year. But also the edge rushing position, and that's kind of ongoing for the last couple years, and the mostly highlighted by the opposite side to Hutch, which is something that I'm almost tired of talking about. But Dan Campbell seems very confident and pleased with Marcus Davenport's profile and his performance. Obviously, not too much in pads because we haven't seen too much of that, but that's who it appears that we are going to be going, running with the second time around. There isn't much more news on Zadarius Smith. So, and I don't know, just the way Brad Holmes seems to talk about him, he's very dismissive to the idea. I don't know if there's something there personally or if he just wasn't as pleased as everybody else was. But yeah, obviously we went out and we drafted Tyler Williams in the first round this year. So those are the biggest. Those two positions are the biggest concerns. But the less pressing thing has been the battle at wide receiver. Obviously, we know that Jamison Williams and Amon-Ra St. Brown are the undisputed top two, but there's definitely some positions up for grab between Tim Patrick, Mr. Tesla, and we also have Khalif Raymond coming back, who was injured a lot of the second half of last year. So there's definitely some spots for the taking at the wide receiver position. So those are the main ones. Oh, and then also the backup quarterback position. Obviously, we know that Jared Goff is for certain to be our starting quarterback as long as he is able to. But this is a critical and pivotal third year for Hendon Hooker. I know the Lions are hoping that after trading up for him in the third round and him being a Heisman Trophy candidate prior to his ACL injury, so they're hoping that he can come in and command that position and solidify it. But they did bring Kyle Allen in to compete with him, so he feel a little pressure. Sometimes you need that just that
Extra
the thought process. Yeah, that there's somebody here that could possibly take your job. But it would be nice because he was drafted to be a possible predecessor to Jared Goff. And Jared Goff obviously performed well enough to warrant his extension, but when Hendon Hooker didn't hit the ground running and come and grab that position, grab that backup position, and made it that much more imperative to sign him, because he could have been a possible predecessor, could still be a predecessor depending on how things play out. But he's got to win that backup job before we even consider anything close to taking over any duties that Jared Goff has.
Gotcha. That fan man says, going to start Tate Ratledge at center week 1. A guy who didn't play center for a single snap in college, and somehow he's not concerned. Ratledge is your new rookie. Guy from Georgia, right? If I remember correctly.
Right. I think he did play. I had to look back at it.
Now he did it down at Mobile, I believe. Most of those guys got moved around all different positions.
Okay. Yeah. That's probably the case then.
Do you think Ratledge is going to beat out Glasgow? Glasgow normally sits?
Maybe not week 1, but I think ultimately that's the hopes. I don't think that Glasgow will be around for the long haul. So
okay. Yeah. Well, it's going to be fun to watch. I know your camp starts about the same time as everybody else's here at the end of July.
Yeah, just a little sooner because of the Hall of Fame game.
Oh, you got the Hall of Fame game. But yes. As soon as the big boys can put on pads and start hitting, I can't wait. Across the board. Speaking of big boys, you're muted. You have a left tackle battle. Do you not pay?
Yes, we do, Dave. Starting left tackle for the Chicago Bears, Braxton Jones. He's still nursing a leg injury that he got last season. So he's not expected to be ready for camp, at least opening day of camp. I think the Bears do report for camp on July 19th. I think the rookies report July 19th, if I'm not mistaken. So with Braxton Jones, who's the incumbent starter, he's not ready to hit the field first day of training camp. That gives rookie Ozzie Trapillo and second-year player Karen Amagaji another chance to impress the coaches, Ben Johnson and his staff. So maybe making this a full-on three-headed competition for defending Caleb Williams' blind side. To me, to be fair, Dave, I think Braxton Jones is mid. I think he's okay. I think for most teams, he probably wouldn't be their starting left tackle if all things are considered. He's definitely not somebody that you would say that, you know what, we're good here. We don't need to upgrade at any point in a draft or in free agency. I just think he's the best of what we've had the last couple of years. So if it is all up in the air, may the best man win. I'm totally fine with that. Now, Kyron Amagaji, I did want him cut last season after we saw him play that one game against Minnesota Vikings where he absolutely poo-pooed his pants. But my co-host talked me down, said it wasn't fair. He was put in a bad situation because our bad head coaching staff and our bad front offices just did him dirty. So, okay, he's got a full offseason to to work and to prove that him being drafted in the third round last season was fair. So we shall find out. We shall find out this year. And Ozzie, who was drafted this year, I believe, in the third round, he's been impressing the guys at the rookie mini camps and all the other organized team activities this offseason. He's been impressive. So he's a large human being, Dave. So
but they have yet to put on the pads.
You
the only problem with judging linemen. Now, is he getting the snap and the assignments right? That's a big deal. The mental portion of it is a huge deal. And if he's getting that right, that's a good thing. Now, with Ozzie, is it Trapillo or Trapillo?
I believe it's Trapillo. Well, I don't know. There's an L in there, but Italian names. I'm hit or miss with them sometimes.
This looks Spanish to me, but
it could be. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if his lineage yet. Just as of yet, I haven't done that type of a deep dive in him yet. No, did he? Okay.
So ask him where he got his name, Ozzie. Was his parents big Ozzy Osbourne fans?
I will assume his parents were bat chewers as well, Dave.
I loved Ozzy. It was great.
I liked the reality show. It was funny.
I even way back when I played high school, went out on one day as captain and a coin flip and had a frog in my hand and bit the head off just to freak out the other captains because it was all psychological and it worked. We walked on them all day long.
I would have walked off the field as well. I was like, all right, these guys are about business that I'm not about. I'm going home.
Hey, it works. Hey, we get in the mind before you even kick off. You won the game.
That's true.
And we won by like 50 some odd points. But it is what it is. And I learned that from Ozzy. And I've seen him in concert a few times. So it's a good deal. I was curious about that. But that isn't the only battles you've got going on. You've got cornerback 2 between Tyreek Stevenson and Zaw Frazier. Who's going to win that one?
Oh, Tyreek Stevenson. I don't think anybody's challenging him for his spot. I think the top 3 cornerbacks, Kyler Gordon, Tyreek, and Jalen Johnson, are all solid. They're all solidified in their roles. Tyreek Frazier, Frazier, he's just like Trapilio, or let's just call him Ozzy. Just like Ozzy, he's been impressing the coaches, which is a good thing. Again, no pads yet, but you do want to show that you have the footwork. You definitely want to show that you have the mental acuity to play some of these positions, Ozzy included. We talked about this on some episodes back, Dave. That leg snap, very key for a tackle. And if he's got that down, you expect putting the pads on is just a minor, just a minor step in the other, going further, and you just be able to handle business on the field.
Yeah, it's the next step.
Same thing for Frazier. He's looked very good. When they played 7-on-7, he was made a lot of good plays out there. But I definitely don't foresee that he's taking anybody's starting snaps from them. He's going to play. Yeah, all things considered, right now, if everything continues going in the right direction, he's definitely going to play. But Jalen Johnson's not for debate. Kyler Gordon's not for debate. To your opening question, Tyreek Stevenson will be more likely for him to share snaps with him. But for a starting position, no, I don't think so.
No, it says here for CB2, which to me is a starter. Figure 3 corners, and then 2 outside and 1 inside, and and then the outside guy can move inside, and you got the third one that comes in to replace him on the outside. That's fine, but it's 3 corners.
I do think. Because we have a new defensive system this year, it's going to be a lot more man, a lot more traveling. If he continues to have a good offseason, he could get some snaps from Jalen. Okay. Jalen played primarily a lot of cover 3 last year. He was one of the best corners out there last season. He's been a Pro Bowler, All-Pro the last couple of seasons. But Tyreek is a different type of animal. He's not as good man-to-man, but he's definitely a more physical cornerback. So if he can, I assume in this new scheme that there will be some good spelling going on. Now, Kyler Gordon at nickel, nobody's getting his spot. He's the best nickel corner we got.
No, it's not bad. The only other one they listed was Cole Kmet and Loveland. I think you guys are doing what we do, and you have one primary receiver type tight end and then one primary blocker, but both can catch the football, both can block, and you're just going beefier on those 2. Is that right?
They do. Chicago's a beef city, right? So,
hey, it's a black and blue division. We've got to get bigger and stronger.
I do think there is one offseason. I think we talked about this. Luther Burden, our 2nd-round draft pick, wide receiver. He's been missing in action for most of the offseason.
He's been a burden. He's lived up to his name.
So I think that's going to lead that there's a lot of 12 personnel to start the season. right? Just for the simple fact that there's more familiarity in what you have out there going for Ben Johnson's offense. Cole Kmet, we all know what he can do. Colston Loveland, sorry. He's also been hurt, but not to the extent that he hasn't been able to show up like Luther. So I do think that type of battle is just because there's been that injury from Luther is not going to it's going to help that tight end room out much more because they won't be having to have a battle. They're just going to have to be on the field at the same time.
Okay. Now, for the team in the middle, the Green Bay Packers, we've got the offensive tackle / offensive guard Jordan Morgan will challenge Rashid Walker and Sean Ryan, Rhyan, for a starting spot. That's going to be interesting to see how that line turns out. Then they've got problems on the back end, which is going to be rough playing at least two of the teams in the division. They've got safety Javon Bullard and Evan Williams competing for a starting role with Kaiton Oladapo in the mix. They're trying to figure out their safeties. And then cornerback depth, Gregory Jr. and Kamal Hayden vie for roles behind the top three corners. But Green Bay's problem is their backfield. And it's going to be interesting, especially with losing Jair Alexander here a couple weeks ago. Offensive line, defensive backfield. Doesn't it sound rough? Foster, you like seeing that?
Anything that results in the downfall of the Packers, I am major proprietor of.
Okay. Gotcha. Now for the Vikings, our only battles are at depth. Who's going to be, does Sam Howell lock in QB2, which looks like it's going to be the case? And then who's going to be QB3, Brett Rippon or Max Brosmer, the rookie? For wide receiver 4, we're battling between Ty Felton and Rondale Moore. Rondale Moore, the question is, will he be healthy? He tore up his knee very badly last year before the season started with the Cardinals, I believe. And he has yet to come back. And otherwise, he most likely would have that spot, but I don't know. And then we're looking at backup corners. Who's going to be started? Our starters are going to be, most likely, will be Brian Murphy. That's a done deal, Pro Bowler. And Isaiah Rodgers getting his first start. And then the question is, who comes in as CB3? And then Murphy moves inside. Is it going to be Mekhi Blackman or Okudah? Or does Okudah go back to back up at safety? We don't know yet. So it's going to be interesting. And then we got a small punter battle, which I don't even really think's a battle. And then we got a inside linebacker 4 position that could go either way. Brian Asamoah or Mr. Wilson. And it's going to go Mr. Wilson. Asamoah, I think, is going to get cut. But that's it for camp battles for Minnesota. Hey, it is what it is. Can't get here quick enough. Less than 4 weeks. 3 weeks for Foster. You suck. Speaking of you suck, Pay. Your quarterback told the fans of Green Bay they suck. And you're muted.
Yeah, I was waiting for the question, Dave. I heard the quarterback said the right thing, so I was.
How do you feel about him publicly going out and pissing off the fans of the green and gold?
I like it. I like it a lot. You know why? Because for one, you gotta keep you know when you have when you're training a pet, you have to let them you have to let them know early and sometimes often that there are rules of engagement here. You don't bark when you're not supposed to bark, and you don't piss when you're not supposed to piss. All Caleb doing is housebreaking his pet.
Yeah. In other news, water is wet. Like, the sky is blue. Like,
Oh, I thought it'd be a great way to end this. So, with that, any last words there, Foster? Maybe next week we'll have June on.
Never. Hey, I think he's just going to surprise us this one. He's just going to come down from the rafters like Sting.
Nice.
Yeah. I don't know. You like that?
Hey, you got any last words?
Yeah.
That you wanted to bring up today? Now's your final chance.
73 days until kickoff, Dave. How you feeling?
I feel great.
Yeah.
Going
73.
1-0, baby.
There's or the other way around. Is there who wore 73 for the Vikings?
Off the top of my head, I'm trying to remember. And my fans are going to crucify me for this. I don't remember.
Oh, yeah, I see the comment section is lighting up, Dave. I see it. I see it
yeah,
that's a round belly though. That's definitely a big guy.
It's a big round belly. I'm trying to remember who wore 73. If you told me 75, I could tell you that in a heartbeat. But 73, no. I'm sure it's somebody important. Hutch, I think, maybe. Let's see. Now you got me. Oh, no. Okay, we'll look at this up. Meanwhile, Foster, where can they find you? And what does your channel do?
You can find us on Bleachers to Speakers. That is our YouTube channel. That is also our name for the Lions version of it, but we also cover the Pistons as well under the Post Game Podcast name, as well as Corner to Copa for the Tigers news. We cover all that in one-stop shop over at Bleachers to Speakers.
Are the Tigers still leading baseball?
Yes. It's close as far as the best record in baseball, but we are still the top right now. We were the first team to 50 wins, actually. So definitely on top.
Okay. And here we go. My guy's coming in. Yes, Doc Stussy. And for the really old guys, Yeri. Ron Yeri. God, what a tackle. What a tackle.
Oh, Christian Mahogany. We're 73.
I should have known better. I apologize to my fans for not knowing the best round bellies on our list that wore number 73. Ron Yeri's obviously a Hall of Famer. Stussy's a legend. Yeah, he is. God, dude. He rocked back in the day. He was dominant.
Brain farts gets us all, Dave.
Hey, yeah, so does killing brain cells. Where can they find you, Pay?
You can find me and the rest of my merry band of Chicago gentlemen at the Frustrated Chicago Sports Fan Channel, available on YouTube and anywhere you get podcasts: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Castbox, Amazon Music, Pandora, all the such. We are always there right now. Primarily, we do have a Chicago Bears episode coming later this week, and a Chicago Bulls episode to recap the draft that is tonight for the NBA. Will this be another step in the right direction for the Bulls? Do you even believe they're even going in the right direction? Come find out. but primarily what we got going on right now is baseball content. And we are counting down to training camp opens. Like I said, 73 days for my Bears fans. That's Mike Hartenstein, Super Bowl champion Mike Hartenstein. And for those that are a little younger, you might remember Jamarcus Webb wore 75. Not a fun time. Jay Cutler's favorite tackle.
Hey, Foster, speaking of the basketball draft, is that going to bring June back?
It should. The Pistons, unfortunately, don't have a first-round pick, so, it won't be very, exciting. But that's a good thing. That's a good thing that we finally made the playoffs, and that pick that we've been trying to get rid of now, I can't remember what the word is, but we now have to give that pick away now that we're not in the lottery. Yeah.
Now, Pay, you said all your gentlemen over on the Frustrated, Disgruntled, Pissed Off Chicago Sports Fan channel, you have a beautiful young lady that joins you as well, do you not?
Yeah, she, of course, the boss of us all, Tiff. So a merry band of gentlemen and gentlewomen, but she's probably she's more of a sailor than the rest of us. So,
hey, takes all types to be a Chicago Bears fan.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. As long as you don't put ketchup on your hot dog.
Oh, wow.
Well, and everybody knows where to find Vikings First and SKOL. Heck, you're here. And, of course, you can catch all our podcasts on any aggregator that you wish. Our writings over at Fans First Sports Network. Our next show is tomorrow night with Tyler Fornes and the Real Forno Show. What Tyler wants to talk about, I haven't a clue. And then Sunday, you have me and Darren, and we're going to recap the stuff of the week, plus whatever tickles Darren's fancy. I'm sure there'll be something or another. With that, what do we say, Foster? Isn't it that one pride stuff? Pay? What do they say in Chicago?
Bear down, gentlemen.
Gotcha. And, of course, in Minnesota, it's SKOL Vikings. The Fans First Sports Network production. Thank you for listening.